And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Around the Bases with Bubba and Mo, episode 51. Check out the podcast on Twitter at Around Bases Pod, and the podcast, you can find it on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Stitcher. Rate, review, subscribe, all that good stuff. Before we get into a couple signings and a lot of news, introduce my co-host. As always, you can find on Twitter at Boston_Mo. Mo, how we doing?
Pitches and catches, baby. We're here. We did it. That's all I got to say. I'm like speechless. I'm so excited about this season right now. I really am.
There's like two good things. Yes, pitchers and catchers have reported, which is outstanding. All the pictures and videos and all this. It's happening. It's really happening.
It's happening, baby. Let's do it. Let's do it.
And secondly, Mo, if I know that we're not like a math podcast, I'm trying to make sure I calculate this right. But 51, this is like next year's the year anniversary, so this is like a full year in the books now. We actually did.
I think you're right. I think you're right. Yeah, full year. We haven't killed each other. That's wonderful. We somehow have decent quality for being on other sides of the country, and yeah, it's not bad. Now I'm just prepping for fantasy baseball drafts and prepping for the season. It's exciting times, my friend.
It's very, very good, but let's talk about some MLB news, and I guess we'll start off with some of the bad, one would say. Jon Heyman, we give Heyman a lot of crap for a lot of valid reasons, but he dropped a bombshell last night. It almost felt like the Friday afternoon news drop, but he did it on Monday night. The group ACES, the scouting or agents, ACES baseball agency, was busted. Or is going to be busted because one of their workers, Juan Carlos Nunez, a former employee who took the fall during the whole scandal in the Bay Area with the Mitchell report and all that good stuff with Melky Cabrera and so on and so forth. A lot going on there. He has thrown them under the bus, talking about how they paid players and gave them the PEDs and all that good stuff. This is just the tip of the iceberg, but what's your initial thoughts on this?
Yeah, he's suing him for $2 million in unpaid commissions, $500K in fees and expenses. I mean, he went to jail for that whole Melky Cabrera sort of fake website and PED case. A lot of things have come out. I think it's tough for us to make an observation or have a take on it right now because, like you said, it came out 18 hours ago, whenever it came out. So, I saw it right away and added it and kind of said, we'll talk about it. We'll bring it in, but. I mean, it basically accuses them of providing MLB players, and specifically Seth and Sam Levinson, who are, some of the biggest agents in baseball, other than Scott Boras and a few other guys, providing PEDs for decades. Kurt Radomski is in it, which, do you remember that name from the whole Mitchell report era? Made under the table payments to clients. Did whatever it took to violate the laws of the United States and the rules of MLB player. I mean, there's a lot in here that, Heyman's finally not throwing, shit against the wall and hope it sticks. This is concrete in this lawsuit by Nunez. And we'll see what happens coming out of it. I mean, I know it's Melky Cabrera who failed the test, Nelson Cruz who failed the test. It'd be interesting to see what other names come out of this. I think, if I think about it clearly, I feel like it's a lot of names that we're going to hear that we've heard before, not only on the Mitchell report and guys who have been either accused of, failing tests or taking steroids, or who have already failed tests, like we said, Cruz and Melky. So you have to let this one sit for a little bit, but I'm sure we'll be talking about it over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's only going to get worse as more information comes out. But like you said, the main guys, Melky and Cruz, and they both left right after this happened, and they're going elsewhere. But you got guys that are still there. John Lester, David Wright, Petey's there, and then I love Heyman, and tens of others. Not like hundreds of tens of others. But like that sentence just made me laugh. Tens of others. But
I didn't read. I didn't see
Yeah,
that. That's
it was
good.
like
That's
that part.
perfect.
I'll give him credit. That's Heyman to a
And,
freaking T.
and fives of others.
Yes,
So
exactly. Like, how can I insult these guys more? They have no clients basically, but we got them now.
yeah.
But the interesting was is because when that happened, a lot of the guys left, like I was saying, but they still have some of these guys. You know, Lester, Pedroia, those guys aren't really tied to PEDs. Obviously, David Wright isn't because he can never stay healthy. If he was on the right PEDs, he'd be playing as Andy Pettit. But the red flag at the moment, and I think he's clean. I want to pray to God he's clean. But they recently recruited Charlie Blackmon, and then Blackmon goes off on the season he just had. And I never even would have thought about it. And that's in this article. Like, he talks about it. He has had a humongous season last year, and he just joined these guys. It's sad because we're in the era you can't not think of the bad now.
Yeah, and David Wright and Pedroia have been hurt lately, so they could have taken PEDs, just didn't take HGH.
True.
So that is another kind of, because steroids effectively kind of, brings your body down a little bit and get you hurt a lot. So, allegedly, I don't know about this because I don't go to the gym. I don't take any of that stuff. So, but yeah, that Charlie Blackmon is an interesting name, especially when he's doing it at like 33 years old or 32 years old, whatever he is right now.
Yep. So we'll see. Like you said, there'll be more names to come. I have a feeling we'll be talking about this a few more times this spring.
For sure. Now to the spring training. And we're not talking about any team spring training. We're talking about a players association spring training for all the collusion that is happening, quote unquote, according to Scott Boras and other agents. Supposedly going to be at the IMG Academy in Bradenton, Florida. Bo Porter is leading everything. There's no personal trainers allowed. And the union is arranging housing, per diems, travel, insurance, the works. They've already got some players there. I believe Lance Lynn was there, throwing to, I forget who he was throwing to, maybe Lucroy or something like that. But basically just, simulated games. So what do you got on this one?
Yeah, no, we tweeted out that video of Lynn pitching and Lomo was in the box.
Yeah, that's what
it was just weird watching it because you see all these other pictures now of camps and everything, and they all have their team gear on. These guys look like they're at a pickup basketball game but playing on a baseball field, like different colored basketball shorts, cut-off shirts. It just looked like a bad, the Sandlot aged poorly type thing. It's weird, though, because, like Boris talked about it, that he has two big camps, one in, I think, Florida, one in L.A. He doesn't need to send his guys because they can get better, care where he's going to be. But the fact this is actually happening is kind of scary. I think it was Ben Lindbergh I was hearing talk about it. This happened like twice, I believe, and both times it led to a strike season because there's so much turmoil going on. So it'll be really interesting to see how this goes. I didn't think it was going to come to this far, but it is it's sad, I guess, in a baseball sense to think that this has happened. It's not even on the outline, so I'll bring it up like literally a couple hours ago. Chase Utley, who's 39 years old, signed a 2-year deal. So Chase Utley can get a 2-year deal with the Dodgers. There's a lot of these guys that can't get 1- and 2-year deals. And maybe it goes back to what we talked about last week where it's, yes, I'm not going to give you 7 years, go take 5. And as we'll talk about Yu Darvish, he settled for 6. So we'll see how it goes, but it's pretty crazy it actually came to this.
Yeah, it's not a good situation between them. I mean, I don't put the Chase Utley thing in that sense. I mean, it's a 2-year deal at 39 years old where he'll maybe play this year and then maybe next, maybe he retires after this season. I mean, and he's a bench guy. He's not getting at bats. He's a bench, sort of clubhouse guy is what he is. And I'm not comparing him to that. I mean, hopefully the Darvish thing that we'll talk about in a little bit will open up the floodgates for the rest of the starters at a minimum.
No doubt about it. Let's talk about one that we say it as nicely as possible when we laugh throughout this next portion, but I don't see how it's going to happen. But the Tampa Bay Rays, they've been announcing, they've been in Tropicana down in that area for 20 years. They have all these cool jerseys they're going to wear and all this other stuff, and kudos to them, great stuff. But now they want to move their team to actually Tampa. So they're actually in the city where they're from, hopefully get more people in the stadium because St. Petersburg, it's a retirement community. People don't go to these games. And it's also a dump of a stadium they play in. So what's your thoughts on Tampa actually putting a goal out there and a project in place for a new stadium.
Yeah, because I went there for business almost 2 years ago now, and I was staying right in Tampa, and I was landing at like 6. So I was landing, an hour and 15 minutes before they were about to have a game. I'm like, all right, I got to go check in, drop off my bags, park my car and whatnot, and then maybe I can take an Uber to the game. And I get to the hotel, and I'm like, all right, let me put, the Trop in there and see how far it is from Tampa. Oh, it's 35 minutes in St. Petersburg. So I'm not getting to that game because now it's almost 7 o'clock. I can't get there. I don't have the Dickie V mobile. I'm not staying right next to the place. So that's one thing that's killer for them. I mean, I think I ended up going to Longo's Bar Duckies to watch like the national title game from Villanova and North Carolina. I think that was going on. So, they're not close. I mean, they're 35 minutes is fine, but the funny thing about this is the team is going to pitch in $150 million. I think we know that is not going to get it done in terms of a new stadium, and it's kind of going to cost the taxpayers a lot of money for a team that does not get anyone to go to their games unless they play the Red Sox or the Yankees. So and not only that, they just traded the best player in franchise history in Evan Longoria. The rumors are they're going to trade Chris Archer, who has 4 years left on his deal at team-controlled money. They're going to trade him maybe. I just don't see the city pitching in 90% of the money to build a stadium. They're not going to get bamboozled like Jeffrey Loria did to Miami. It's not happening. So will they move to Montreal? Will they move to – what's that? That's what you're hoping for?
That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, I mean, Montreal will be great. So I think it's comical they think that they can get this thing done. We got a couple years now until we find out exactly what's going to happen to that franchise, but I find it hard to believe that they're going to be staying in Tampa. I just do.
Yeah, it's like they need to take notes. Like you mentioned, Jeff Lurie. Let's talk about the Miami Marlins attendance not going over well. The year they got that new stadium, they went and bought every free agent under the sun, which it's part of the reason they're in the trouble they're in now, folks. So it's like I keep finding ways to try to defend Derek Jeter, which is tough, but they did that to fill the stadium, and you guys still didn't show up. So think about that. But Tampa Bay, they're a fun team. I'd rather watch them than the Marlins, even when the Marlins had decent players. Tampa Bay can be fun with their young players. They got some good young players coming up, but contending-wise, they're just not there. People have been listening to, the first 50 episodes, at least part of them. They knew I was on the Rays bandwagon, and we're going to talk Pecota, and Pecota's a little drunk on the Rays right now too.
Oh, man.
But I just don't see the stadium. I would love if we ever started like crusades on this show, or something to go for. I would love a team in Montreal. That's one of those things. Like you see people campaign for Hall of Famers and other things. If one of our first campaigns was a team in Montreal, that'd be outstanding. That'd be fun. But it's going to come down to, I think, if they can get the money, they'll get a stadium. That's the scary part. It's going to come down to Tampa Bay or Oakland, and we know Oakland's got their sights set, as we talked last week with Alex. I believe it was 2023. I think is the number. Yeah. So that's their target date, and they still don't even technically have that figured out yet. It's one of those two teams, if not both, is leaving somewhere, and hopefully it's close to home for their fans. But I think the A's have a better shot at staying in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, Dickie V, like I said earlier, he would be devastated. Like that might. I don't want to see this happen. I don't wish death on anyone. That might kill the guy if he ever loses his Rays. I don't know what the heck he would do in Sarasota. I have no idea.
He'd be ruined.
Outside of college basketball season, that is. He's got enough going on right now. But not a young guy. But we move on to bigger and better things. We move on to Pecota. They came out. Everyone loves when these numbers come out because it's gospel. Everyone knows that this is exactly what's going to happen in the MLB season. Every division winner that is predicted will win that division. And every team that is under 70 wins will win under 70 games. This is just what will happen. Not really, but let me just give you a quick overview of what we're looking at here before we kind of go back and forth on a few things. Nothing has surprised anyone by who they picked to win the divisions. It's the Yankees, the Indians, the Astros, the Nats, the Cubs, and the Dodgers. So nothing crazy there, nothing different except for the Yankees with the Red Sox than what happened last year. So they really went on a limb there. The Astros, Dodgers tied for the most wins with 99. Red Sox, Rays, AL wildcard winners according to the records. D-backs, and then the Cards and Giants are sort of tied there. So I guess I'll let you start, and we'll kind of go back and forth, and we'll see how this goes because we didn't prep this for the first time. So this is kind of off the cuff a little bit, and I kind of like it. So Bubba, let's start with you.
First question. This is a simple one, like not even in depth. You already said it. They picked the captain obviouses for the division winners. What kind of surprises me, are you surprised by the gap? Every division's got gigantic gaps. Besides, somehow the Mets and the Nats are the closest one, I guess. Yeah, those are pretty much the closest ones. Does any of that surprise you at
all? I think maybe the AL East surprises me a little bit, only because I don't think the Red Sox are that far behind the Yankees, if that makes sense. I don't think they're, what are they, 13 games behind them, I think is what they are. I have it in front of me. Nine. So same thing. Yeah. 9 games. I don't, because that whole division, other than Baltimore, in my opinion, because of their rotation and losing Britain, the whole division isn't terrible per se. Whereas, same kind of with the AL West. Whereas obviously the Nats, you would think they'd be like 96 wins, but I don't know. Yeah, I'm surprised by that for sure.
All right, now it gets a little more specific here. I'll start in the American League West. We have the Astros at 99 and 63, but somehow the Mariners are 83 and 79, and are one of the big darlings of the offseason with Mr. Ohtani and everything else they've done. The Angels are 80 and 82, not even a 500 team. That one surprises me a bit. What are your thoughts on the AL West?
We don't even prep, and those were the first 2 teams on my list was the Angels and Seattle. Seattle was our pick last year. Both of our picks in the AL West.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, I don't. Obviously they got D Gordon. They traded
pitching.
for
no pitching.
No pitching. They traded for Healy. Other than that, they didn't get better. Felix is, he's not old for his age, but he's old with the amount of years he's pitched in the league. And I said it all last year. He's not the same guy. I was in one of my keeper leagues the other day, and I was kind of getting, prepping for our slow draft to start, and someone had kept Felix Hernandez, and I didn't even realize it. So I don't know how that happened, but I'm a little bit surprised by that. The Angels improved their rotation. Maybe their bullpen's a question to them. They don't really have a true closer per se, even though Parker was pretty good last year. Their lineup is better. Other than the Mariners lineup, and it's getting older with Nelly Cruz and Cano, I just don't see it there for Seattle. Now, are they better than the A's and the Rangers? Maybe. But maybe not 83 wins. It's not that much better than those 2 teams. So I'm very surprised that the Angels aren't around 86, 87, in my opinion.
Yeah. What do you got? Give me one.
All right, well, let's go right to the AL East. I think one thing that is funny to us, and we kind of panicked about it in the first month and a half, and we obviously can't do that anymore, is the Orioles. They finally have them so low at 69 wins, and a lot of the O's fans won't like to see it. But I think this year they've finally realized that this is where they're at. Now, maybe they're not 69 wins bad, but that rotation could be one of the worst rotations that we've ever seen. The bullpen will be okay, but Britton's out probably till August, if that. And, maybe by then, if he's healthy, that they trade him for something. Same goes with Machado. Same goes with Adam Jones. I mean, they could trade everyone to get whatever they can because they're way out of it, and which is what they should do. So that one kind of hits me there. What do you got on them?
I absolutely love it. This is everything we've dreamed of and more right there. And it's not a slight against the Orioles, but we were literally, like you said, kind of sweating early last year going, what the heck is going on with these guys? But they have no rotation. That's not even just saying their pitchers are bad. They have no rotation. They have to sign 2 or 3 guys. They have no starting rotation as we speak. So it's
Bundy and Gaussman really have to literally be like Cy Young Award winners for them to get anything.
And I like them both. Don't get me wrong, but man, they can't carry this team. You got Zach Britton's gone, like you said. Brock's fine, but the first decent trade offer they get for him, he's gone. So now you got Darren O'Day and maybe Givens running your bullpen for you, which not ideal for the back end. And then your lineup, Machado's great and all, but yeah, Adam Jones is Adam Jones. Chris Davis maybe figures out half of what he used to be. I don't know. It's not pretty, to say the least, but somehow they'll make us look bad for a couple months like last time, and they'll fall apart. But, yeah, that one stands out big time. In that same division, the Rays, it's funny because as long as they have Archer, their team isn't much different than it was last year. And, sure, they lost Longo, but now Matt Duffy's back healthy. I'm not saying he's going to replace Longo's production, but it's not going to be that far off of the full year of Duffy. They could be very interesting in a full year. Wilson Ramos back there. Brent Honeywell maybe comes up. You got Adames in the minors. They have a lot of young talent. They already said Jose De Leon's looking really, really good coming back from his injury. They have a lot to look forward to in Tampa Bay. 84 and 78 to me might be asking for too much, but last year they made a run and surprised a lot of people too. Do you think that's too high, or kind of it could happen?
Well, it could happen for sure because I like the pitching. Will they trade Colomé is the question, or if they keep him, that's good for them. Will Honeywell come up and be, an impact guy if Eovaldi doesn't get the job done as the fifth starter, or they maybe trade Odorizzi to Minnesota or Milwaukee or something like that. They also lost, as much as I think that his year was an anomaly, it just won't happen again. They lost Lomo. I mean, that's 38 homers. That's a lot to give up. Brad Miller, is not, I don't think he's really a 38 homer guy. I think he's very inconsistent.
Is Brad Miller represented by aces by chance?
It possibly could be, so could Steven Souza Jr. We're not really sure. So, the Rays, the lineup is, when I look at it, on paper, and I like Wilson Ramos. I mean, we talked about him in the catchers. I mean, you like, the C Dick tweets. I mean, if you could search those on your thing, it'd probably be in the tens of hundreds. We don't really know, like John Heyman. So, you have that there.
John Heyman and Arby's.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, Kiermaier can't stay healthy. There's a lot of questions of that lineup. I don't really like that lineup a lot. Maybe they'll bring Lomo back at cheap money, considering nobody's falling for it. So maybe he gets an $8 million deal from them, whether it's 2 years or 1 year. Not sure what will happen there, but I'm not going to stay on the Rays too much. I mean, the fact that they're picked as the wild card winner,
it's interesting.
Is very interesting, especially where, a team like Toronto is still going for it this 1 year. And if their rotation stays, it's every bit as good as the Rays rotation, if not better. And then their lineup's better with Donaldson in the middle of it. So that's a very interesting thing.
Real quick before you go on to the next one, they're only 3 games back of the Red Sox. Why do you think it's that close according to Pecota?
I'm like speechless because I don't know. I mean, we have Kimbrel in the bullpen, and then maybe they don't trust the rest of the bullpen.
I agree. It shouldn't be that close.
Thornburg's supposed to be back. Carson Smith, first full season with the team, full healthy season. And then you got, Machine Gun Joe Kelly and Matt Barnes, who can only pitch at home. So it's a lot there. But let me transition into this. JD Martinez, I think he's still going to end up with the Red Sox. Does that put them over 90 wins? Like, how many? I'm not saying he's worth like that many wins, but that's a lot of power to add. And now you're not worried about, the whole will Hanley show up or anything like that. And maybe you just get rid of Hanley altogether. That is there with them, and that is there with the Diamondbacks as well, who are at 86 wins. So I wonder what will happen with the JD thing.
That's true. Very true.
Yeah. But no, let's get into your team. I want to know what you think about the Giants. They've made major moves. Obviously, last season was, crazy with Bumgarner and his dirt bike, and Cueto getting hurt, and Matt Moore going back to whatever, and Samardzija, giving up runs. But the advanced analytics say that he's going to be better than he was. And Melanson, I could name a million things that happened to your Giants. 84 and 78. You think that's sort of where they are? Or are they a couple wins better than that?
They're in that ballpark. When we talked about those moves they made recently, I was trying to keep it not too homerish by saying this team can contend for a wild card, because I by no means are they going to beat the Dodgers, at least during the regular season. It's not happening. But I truly think Cueto can't be that bad. Samardzija will be better. Bumgarner, a full season of Bumgarner, I'm not worried about him at all. So that right there is great. They're already bolstering the bullpen with a few moves, and now the latest rumor today, I'm really excited about, if it's true, is they might add Tony Watson to the back of that bullpen, and that really gets me excited to have him as a nice lefty piece at the end. So it's interesting. I definitely think this is reasonable. I was saying around 500 wild card contenders. So this makes sense to me because their offense obviously will be better, which will help the pitching out a ton. So I think it's fair. I think the D-backs, like you mentioned, losing JD Martinez, I wouldn't be surprised if they're more a 500 team personally, because they had some pitchers pitch really, really well last year, and you're going to have Godley and Ray and Taijuan Walker and Patrick Corbin all pitch really well to go with Zach Greinke. That's asking a lot, but maybe the humidor helps that. That also hurts their offense. Who knows? So that division's going to be a lot of fun, though, because the Rockies are still going to be the Rockies. Padres will be better, but they're not going to be great just yet. So I think the Giants, they are definitely a wild card contender. At least that's what I'm buying into now, trying to keep as much homerism out of it.
I think they almost took the easy way out in that division. I mean, there is some separation there between the 4 teams below the Dodgers, but at the same time, they all have, San Diego's the worst. It's with 73 wins, and that's not an awful team. It's just they're in a tough division, and they may just all beat each other up. The main thing about the Diamondbacks last year is I'm pretty sure off the top of my head, and I should have looked it up. I mean, they kind of owned the Dodgers, didn't they?
Yes,
yeah,
they did very well. In division period, they did very well.
Yeah, and obviously they didn't have JD the whole year, and they were still where they were without him. But I mean, his when he got there, it obviously helped them, kind of propel into that first wild card spot, and really got them like 8 back of the Dodgers, too. So, yeah, I kind of agree with you with the Giants. It's interesting that they've obviously gotten better in terms of name recognition and potential, but is Longo and McCutchen, maybe a little bit older than what they used to do? I know everyone was making jokes. Well, if you traded for him in 2011, then what are we talking about? Well, I mean, the Giants still won 2 World Series. So, and you always want that guy that they were, but they had to do something. And McCutchen's a 1-year deal. So I'm harping on, I like what they did, and they had to do it. And they didn't get rid of much, because I don't think much of Christian Arroyo. I really don't. I don't think you gave a lot up for him when he came up last year. A lot of guys were picking him up in dynasty leagues and using waivers. I don't understand why they were doing that, but there's that. I think the next couple I have, Bubba, and we can go back and forth. The 2 darlings of last year. One of them made the playoffs. One of them different, was the Brewers and the Twins. The Brewers, 83 and 79. They have them. The Twins at 81 and 81 in that awful division, other than the Indians. So is that an Irvin Santana's hurt for the first month and a half and they haven't done anything in rotation? Or is that we're going to regress back to what they should have been last year?
Yeah, that Twins one is kind of surprising to me. I thought they haven't really done much, so I don't know if that's a good thing. But the fact they haven't really done much makes you think they're still going to be a good baseball team. And, a lot of those young players are just getting better now. Rosario, Polanco, you still have Dozier, who's not old by any means. The Sano, depending on his issues, you got Kepler in the outfield. There's a lot to like there, or Kepler, a lot to like there. But you mentioned at the starting rotation, can Kyle Gibson pick up where he left off at the end of 2017? That's a big if. But I was talking to someone about him recently who's pretty high on him and a lot of data to back up on it. It wouldn't shock me if he was, at least a good number 3 per se. People forget he was like a first-round draft pick, I believe, or at least a top prospect at some time for the Twins. He's never figured it out. So, maybe he's just figuring it out late. So that wouldn't shock me. But, yeah, Santana going down hurts. I didn't expect him to be as good as he was last year by any means, but that hurts. They do need to make a move. They will make a move. They were going for Yu Darvish. They didn't get Yu Darvish. So, that money they were going to use there, maybe they go get Cobb and Lynn, or they get at least one of those 2. There's definitely a lot they can work on there. So I think this projection is low. That's my opinion. Because like you mentioned, the other part is not just that maybe they haven't improved. That division's still bad. The White Sox are going to be good, but they're not going to be there yet. They're going to be a while. The Tigers are horrible. The Royals are, if you can look in the dictionary, what's worse than horrible, that's the Royals. They're going to be very bad. I don't care if they bring Hosmer and Moustakas back. They're going to be bad. So I think 81 is very, very low.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. It's the White Sox projected with, again, I'm not going off all of Pecota, but just to give some data to back it up, 73 wins, 69 wins for the Tigers, 66 wins for the Royals. That is the worst division in baseball in terms of your final couple of teams. I mean, most divisions don't have that. You know, the NL East, excuse me, you know, has that a little bit with obviously the Marlins will be terrible. The Braves are still trying to figure it out. The Phillies will be better than they're supposed to be. That's the everyone's sort of darling wild card, you know, sleeper. So they have that in that division, and you just have to think that they're going to win a minimum of, you know, and this is baseball, so it don't work like that, but a minimum of 11 of the 19 games against those teams. That's 33 wins right there, and then you get other wins here and there. So I think 81's a little bit low. I'm not saying they're a 90-win team, but I think, you know, 500 is a little bit low. I think around more like an 85, 86-win team, which could get you in that second wild card, is where they probably are. And maybe they, like you said, they go get one of those, you know, 3 starting pitchers. You got any more?
Yeah, you kind of mentioned him a second ago. We haven't talked about him yet, but that NL Central, very, very interesting. You know, you got the Cubs at 92 and 70. They just picked up Darvish. Not 100% sure if these they were updated on 2/12. Okay, so they were updated with the Darvish news.
Yep.
So you got them at 92 and 70. The Cardinals at 84 and 78. They have made moves. We know this, and they're supposed to be definitely better. And then the Brewers at 83 and 79. We've talked about their offense picking up with Yelich, Kane. We still think they need more pitching. They didn't get Darvish. They're going to get Arrieta, Cobb, Lynn, the same suspects we talked about ad nauseum. So that three-way race there, honestly, Yu Darvish helps a ton. And I get that. I understand that. But I really feel that this Cardinals and this Brewers team are very, very good. And they're – especially the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals are much better than they're getting credit for here. But I think the Brewers are really good too. Like, honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if those – like 3 teams, Cubs, Cardinals, Brewers, all find the postseason. I really wouldn't be shocked. What's your thoughts on kind of the gap between the Cubs and then the other 2, and then the impression on the Brewers 83 and 79 record?
You know, we're going to talk about Darvish in a couple minutes, but you know, obviously that's a good signing for them. It really is, because you know, you're talking moving. It's Darvish and Mike Montgomery. And it's obviously a step up. I know Darvish missed all of 2015, missed most of 2016. You know, he only pitched like 160 innings last year, or 70 innings, whatever it was. So yeah, it's a big signing for him. And the question is, you know, do they have a real number 1 on that team? I'm not sure they do per se. I think Lester, you know, he'll be better than last year. He's not a number 1. Quintana is very, very good. He's close. You know, Hendricks is Hendricks. There's differing opinions on him. And then Darvish has the stuff to be number 1. And if they can get multiple years out of him, that's great. Their bullpen suspect. The lineup is you know, it's Bryant and Rizzo. And then after that, you know, Contreras is fine. You know, they have Happ, they have Schwarber. In questions there. They're young. So, you know, I'm not thrilled on paper with the Cubs, but at the same time, there's, you know, the Brewers have the end of the rotation questions. The Cardinals, you know, maybe you question their bullpen a little bit. I know our guy STL Cup of Joe, hopefully he'll be on, you know, soon. He can talk about it a little bit more, because I know he's doing a lot on the bullpen stuff. So you have to look into that too. And then can Carlos Martinez be that guy for the Cards? They obviously improved their offense with Ozuna. So I think maybe the Cardinals, you know, should be a little bit closer. And then maybe the Brewers will too. I don't think Pittsburgh will be as good as they're projecting. And then the Reds have young talent, but can they be there? So I think maybe it should be a little bit closer, Bubba. It's a long way to get there. But there's questions on all 3 teams for sure. And I don't think I don't think I think it could be just like last season where the Cubs, they don't run away with it till the end.
Yeah, and it's pretty interesting because if you look at that last column over there, the fielded runs above average projection, every team in that division is at a negative, which you don't see anywhere else.
Right.
That to me, and I'm not deep into how these projections work on Pecota, like I don't know all the process they're doing, but that leaves a lot of variance in this division, in my opinion, that they're all pretty suspect, one could say. But yeah, I think because if the Cardinals and the Brewers are better, that might take wins away from the Cubs and tighten that gap. Then again, like you said, the Pirates, I don't think they're going to be 70s. Like I'd be more maybe 70 wins for the Pirates at the most. Like I don't think they're going to be that good. I think the Reds could hop them because the Reds, you never know what you're going to get with that young team. But I still think they'll be pretty bad. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that all comes into play.
Well, just call up Senzel. Reds, please call up Senzel. Let's get this thing started.
Get it in. All right, that's pretty much all of the Pecota talk for the day. We hit up most of them. I guess. Well, one more I'm gonna throw out there. How the hell are the Mets 81 and 81?
Mickey Callaway keeps the rotation healthy for the whole season.
He just said today he wants to. He's thinking about leading off Todd Frazier.
He wants a lot of leadoff home runs.
My God. I guess there's plan on the rest of that division being so bad.
Maybe he just learned from Tito. He's just screwing with everybody.
I hope so, because the Maggie. Because, yeah, the fact the Nationals aren't a 90-win team is kind of surprising.
That is the fact that they're not a 95-win team. I mean, did they get worse from last year? I'm confused there.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. But, okay, enough Pecota. We'll probably end up revisiting that throughout the rest of the spring training when we do team previews and everything, and kind of go deeper on all of that information. But let's talk about the Blue Jays. They're going to do a very good thing. Sadly, it happens, after the passing of Roy Halladay, but they are going to retire the number 32, and they're going to wear a commemorative patch this season, the entire season, at number 32. Don't forget he passed away at age 40 this year, but he had 12 of his seasons with the Jays. Some just amazing seasons. People remember him with the Phillies, with the postseason success that he had, but he was a Blue Jays through and through, and he was darn good there. So they are going to retire his number, and he'll be joining Roberto Alomar. It's the only Jay to have their number retired. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, not much to add to it. I mean, I've watched him go against the Red Sox for years when he was with Toronto. I watched him shut us out a bunch of times with 1 million complete games, which is one of the last guys that we've seen in this day and age with 1 million complete games. It felt like he had a rubber arm, and it really didn't matter, how many pitches he had or how tired he looked. He seemed to just get the job done, and the guy was a bulldog. And it's not really surprising what they're doing. I'm sure they'll have his family there too, and it'll be a tough day for them. But they'd be proud of everything that he did in his career, and on and off the field. So it's a good thing the Blue Jays are doing. And there's really not much to add to that. I mean, I would assume that he's going to be in the Hall of Fame, at some point, whether it's, next year or the year after. I would think some point he'd probably make it, but that's to be determined.
Yep.
This last one happened the other day. It's pretty insane. Esteban Loaiza, former Blue Jay as well. Good segue there. Arrested for possession of a lot of drugs, mainly cocaine and heroin. 44 pounds of cocaine and heroin. I don't know what the price is of that on the streets. I'm not privy to that information, but he has $200,000 bail. I'm sure he posted it. He made over $40 million in his career. Maybe it was all gone and he needed to do something. I'm not sure. But Bubba, he was at White Sox winter weekend, whatever the hell they call it, Fan Fest, like 2 weeks ago, signing autographs for everyone. Maybe he was on cocaine. That's what got him there. I don't know, but this carries a minimum of 15 years in prison. Minimum.
This one's wild. I'm gonna be spot on. I didn't see this one coming, and I was talking to someone else on Twitter about, I think it was about that Sammy Sosa picture that came out, and being a cowboy and everything. And then someone comments, Esteban Loaiza is the real drug cowboy. And I'm like, what the hell are we talking about? And the next thing I know, I see all these stories coming across. And I'm like, my goodness, of all the guys. Like, I guess if you look at him, kind of has that, tightened up look that he might be put on a leather jacket and he's on the next season of Narcos. Maybe. I don't know. But this is crazy. 44 pounds with the intent to sell and transport of cocaine or heroin. I love how it doesn't specify which one it is.
Right.
But got busted in San Diego. Regardless, like you said, that's a lot of drugs. And I guess the moral of the story is he didn't save enough money when he was playing because he had a pretty decent career. Should have a few dollars saved away.
$43 million, I think, is what he made.
Yeah, if you're selling drugs after you retired in 2008 because you don't have any of your $43 million left, he's probably made worse life decisions than this, just never got caught. So, yeah, 15 years in the pokey, not going to be good. So long, farewell, I guess is the best way I could say it, because I guess when it's been a slow season, these kind of stories pop up a little bit and make you laugh, but wow.
Unless he gives other people up and takes a lesser charge, which if he does that, then he's probably going to be a dead man walking anyway, because those people are probably more dangerous than he could be or anyone else could be, and they'll find him or they'll have somebody find him for them. So I don't think we're going to be hearing from Esteban Loaiza. Not that we have, unless you're a White Sox fan. That nice young kid got a nice autograph there, and that's going to be, he's going to have that forever.
That's a collector's item now.
give it to his grandkids in 50 years. So good for that little kid. That's the last autograph that they'll see, except for, the guys in prison that he spends with, whether it's in Mexico or San Diego. I don't know where, because he was in Tijuana the week before that. So
his
I wonder where he got the cocaine. Or heroin, whatever they specified. Yeah,
it's wild.
It's wild.
If that wasn't hot enough for us, let's talk about the MLB Hot Stove. And we have two sightings, not the Chase Utley one, but we had a splash. I was at Pebble Beach on Saturday, and I get text messages.
Humble brag.
Oh, hey, it was nice, yeah. I get a text message from my good buddy here, Mo, and the cell service is horrible there. I guess because I have Verizon, it's sponsored by AT&T. I don't know. Cell service is horrible, and all I see is this. I try to find it. I get Yu Darvish to the Cubs. It's all I can see. But the splash happened, like you said. It's a big 6-year, $126 million deal. It's broken down $25 million this year, $20 million, $22 million, and 20 and 21, and $19 million in 22, $18 million in 23. It's a pretty sweet deal for a guy that wanted 7. Everyone wanted to give him 5. He gets 6. Everyone's happy. I think we're going to see a lot of this coming up for the rest of the world with bonuses and everything. He can get up to $150 million. Pretty sweet deal for a 31-year-old, don't you think?
Could be. Yeah, it's a good deal for him. In the last 3 years of the deal, it's a decent one for the Cubs, maybe in the first 3. I would not have given him 6 years at 31 years old, and he's almost 32. He'll be 32 in the summer. I would not have given him 6 years. I would have given him 5 in an option or whatever. Backload. I don't know what you would have done, but I wouldn't have given him 6. I just wouldn't. Now, did they need him? I think they did, but I also think they took themselves out of the Bryce Harper sweepstakes, and they may have already done that with the Hayward contract. But I'm not sure they have the money. This is the next couple of years, and I've said it before, for Theo Epstein will be very interesting because their farm system is depleted, and you got Rizzo locked up for through 22 with the option years at fine money. Bryant's going to wait till free agency. We all know that. So you got him coming up in a few years as well. And then Lester's older. Quintana's got a few years left, so they're lucky on that part. And then the bullpen's big question. But I think they had to sign this guy. Now, I mentioned, before with the Cubs and the Pecota discussion that he missed all 2015 with the Tommy John. He missed most of 2016. Last year, I was a little bit wrong. He had 186 innings in the regular season, then the playoffs where he tipped his pitches. So did he fix that? I think he'll be good. He may not be worth all that money in terms of the final couple years, but I do think that the Cubs needed to make this deal to bolster that rotation, especially with question marks with Lester coming off last year. And then Hendricks is always a question of, can the defense behind him, since he's really a contact guy, can the defense behind him, help him and make all the plays that they need to let him pitch and be effective. So at the end of the day, like I said, I think they needed to make the deal, but I wouldn't have given them 6.
Yeah, it's a pretty steep get. Like you said, $31 million. 2014, he only threw 144 innings, missed 2015 due to Tommy John. And in 2016, only threw 100 innings. So came back last year and combined for 186 innings after that 100-inning season in 16. I am a little concerned on what's going on that arm. Everyone's saying it's because the ball's this, the ball's that in the postseason. Could be. We'll see. There's got to be a little concern with what's going on there with Yu Darvish. So, like you said, the first few years, sure, should be okay. Then it gets interesting, and you hit the nail on the head. Is now they're out of the Harper sweepstakes most likely, and that system is just gone. So it'll be really interesting. When do they start trading guys? Because they're going to have to start re-upping these young names to either big deals or going to have to deal them and get something for them. So be curious to see what the Cubbies do here. As their dynasty might, or their wannabe dynasty might be coming to an end sooner than later.
Yeah, they're very lucky they won that World Series a couple years ago, because they are not. I mean, they're not. They're probably in the Pecota division winners that we mentioned. Now, again, it might not happen that way. Wouldn't you say that they're 6th out of all those teams?
Yeah, definitely.
In terms of teams you'd pick to win the World Series?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So we're on the same page there. Yeah, it's not that means anything, because again, once you get to the tournament, you get a horse. I mean, Lester did it for them a couple years ago. Anything can happen, but yeah, it's kind of scary if you're a Cubs fan right now.
No doubt.
One more on the cold stove. The Rays signed Sergio Romo, 1 year, $2.5 million deal. 35 years old. Velocity's been down, but he's still missing. He's still somehow missing some bats. 30 and 2/3 innings for them last year after he was released and then kind of traded by the Dodgers. 1.47 ERA, 28K, 7 walks with the Rays. So, yeah, not a bad deal for them. Maybe if Colomé traded, that he can get some save opportunities.
Yeah, and that's what it makes a good cheap deal. We've seen a lot of relievers go for pretty steep price tags this offseason. He's reliable. He's a veteran on a team that doesn't have a ton of veterans anymore. Nothing fancy. Doesn't hurt him at all. So I think it's a good thing to have, because they are trying to trade Colomé, like you said. So it gives them some definite leverage there for a guy that does have back end of the game experience. Let's move on to this week's Fantasy Baseball edition. We've gone through the infield, and now we head on to the outfield. Mo and I are going to go over our top 10 outfielders, and it's a super deep position, so we'll probably go back and forth on some other guys after that. But we'll kick it off. Mo. Oh, and we don't have no Chris Bryant on the list. There's a lot of guys that are dual position eligible. So if for some reason we don't list them off, it's not because of that. It's because we mentioned them elsewhere. But Mo, who's your number 1 outfielder? Please tell me you didn't screw this up.
Mike Trout. Yep.
Okay.
Don't need to say anything.
Yeah, we'll move on that one. Who is your number 2?
Bryce Harper. Obviously he had the freak injury last year. Thank God they unfortunately didn't decide to change the bases, in case someone else slips on first base and when it rains. So they didn't do that, but I think he's going to avoid that this year. And this is his 40 and 120 year for him to get paid $35 million a year from the Yankees or from whoever. Probably not the Cubs now, but from the Yankees or maybe the Red Sox if they somehow get it in there. I got something in my throat, but maybe they jump in there on that too. But this is his year, Bubba. This is his year.
Oh my God. If he goes to the Red Sox, pray for all of us on this podcast. Yeah, I got Harper number 2. There's not much to say. There's kid when healthy is the second best player in baseball for the most part, especially offensively. So I had no problem with that at all. Who is your number 3? Now it gets fun.
It does get fun, and again, I'm gonna have a cop out here, but you could go back and forth with these different guys. And again, I may sound biased here, but I got Mookie Betts at 3. The guy had an off year last year. Okay, he really did. Now, does he have 30 home run potential? Probably. He probably does. I do think he does. It could be. It depends on who you ask, and he'll probably end up in that 27 range, right in the middle of the 2 years. But his average is a lot better than it should be last year. I think Alex Cora is going to get him going this year on the base pass. I really do. So I think, there's an outside chance of a 30-30 season for him. Like I said, the average is going to be back to around, 290, 295. I really do believe that. I think they're going to fix some things there with him. And obviously he's got a ton of plate discipline. He gets on base a lot. It would be interesting to see what they do with him this year. I don't think he'll lead off. But with no Pedroia there, they may not have a choice. So that's something to watch as well with Mookie.
Yeah, my number 3 is Mookie Betts as well. I totally agree with everything you said. He had a down year last year, and he still scored 101 runs, drove in 102, 24 homers, easily could get past 30. I just not a problem at all. He still had 26 steals, so I agree with everything you said there. 264 average, that's going to go up. I love Mookie Betts to take a big jump this year. There's another outfielder we're going to talk about in Boston later. I think that Boston outfield is going to have a nice punch and a big improvements coming up this year with both of them. So I like Betts quite a bit at number 3. Who is your number 4?
Andrew Benintendi. No, I'm just kidding. Charlie Blackmon is number 4. We're not going to have that much bias here. Charlie Blackmon is number 4. Hopefully you're wrong about the whole Levinson thing. That would be crushing because I love Charlie Blackmon.
I don't want to be right.
I didn't say you wanted it to, but I just wanted to throw it out there because that guy, every interview I hear of him, he seems like the best guy in the world. So, last year, career year, 37 homers. The steals are down. That's one thing I'm a little worried about. I think the runs will still 137 is a lot. I don't know if he'll get there, but he'll be up in the 120s. It is a contract year for him, and he's not an older free agent per se, but he'll be 32 in July. And he would probably want to try and get a 6-year deal. You got to assume that the way things are going, that he's going to try to aim for a 7, but he'll probably end up getting a 5 or 6 year deal from somebody, maybe even in Colorado. He loves it there so much that he's going to take a sort of a hometown discount there. So he's my number 4.
This is getting boring right away. I have Blackmon as well. What he did last year was ridiculous. Now, do I think it's going to be as good as last year? It's going to be tough to repeat that when you think about it. He had 86 extra base hits, 35 doubles, 14 triples, 37 homers. He slugged .601, and that wasn't all Coors. People need to take that into effect. He did it everywhere he went. Scored 137 runs. Now, the steals, he stole 14 bases, got caught stealing 10 times. Love for that to improve, but he can still hit for 310 to 320 probably. He's going to hit with some power. I love Blackmon, especially if leading off, getting all those extra at-bats and everything in that lineup with Arenado a couple places behind him. So you said most of it. I know he is getting older, though, so the regression train is going to be coming one of these years soon, and it's going to surprise some people, but he's still young enough that he's got a couple more good years in him, I believe. I wouldn't take him early in a dynasty league, but redraft league, I do like him a lot at my number 4 position. Let's see if we can differentiate at number 5, Mo.
I think we do. I still have Giancarlo at 5. I got him up there. I think the ballpark change will help because he literally can break his bat and probably get 5 home runs in right field. It's just that stadium is just ridiculous. 59 homers. I don't know, but he's in. I think he's in a better lineup. I mean, I know he had Yelich and he had Ozuna, but now he has Gary Sanchez and Judge around him. I think it helps Judge more than anything, and then Didi Gregorius and Gardner up front. So I think he's going to have a huge year. I think he's going to go at least 50 and 125 and score a crap ton of runs. And the 280. Will he be 280? I'm not sure. Will he be pitched around a ton? That could help the OBP a little bit. He might be, but I still like him at 5 in the outfield rankings.
Yeah, my number 5 is George Springer. Absolutely love George Springer. He only played 140 games last year, missed some time. Still had 34 homers with 112 runs. Drove in 85, and that just ridiculous offense. It's going to stay pretty much the same this year. I wish he'd steal more. He only had 5 steals, got thrown out 7 times. So that is a little bit of a concern. But if he could pick that up, he hit 283 last year. I think he's got a bat capable of 290 to 300. There's a lot to like with George Springer. The power's legit, especially with that short porch and left. I love George Springer, and that lineup is not hurt at all. So he is my number 5. Who's your 6?
My 6 is JD Martinez. This is dependent on, where he does sign. I think the either places that we have mentioned, he'll be fine. Obviously, you got to question the humidor in Arizona, but Boston and Arizona will still be fine for him. And he only played 119 games last year. We all know the second half that probably can't be duplicated, but he's got 40 home run power. He only had 104 RBIs. Again, only just under 500 plate appearances. The average will be fine. I mean, in 2016 he was 307. He was 303 last year. The ISO was obviously way up at 387. That probably is not sustainable. But with more at bats come more home runs, or at least the same amount of home runs as he had last year. So I like JD Martinez a lot.
My number 6 is BDS, Giancarlo Stanton, as you mentioned him earlier. Pretty much everything you said. A better ballpark to hit in. He's good for he's not going to, but he's one of the few guys in baseball you could say, okay, he's going to hit you 50 plus a year. He can do that. He's going to drive in over 100 easily in that lineup. That's as long as he plays enough games. That's a given. Like the Steamer projections on Fangraphs, they only have him playing 136 games. So he's taking over almost 30 games off. Still 53 homers, 125 RBIs, 103 runs scored, 287 average. Give me all of that. And that's only in 136 games. He's going to be able to DH in that park. There's a lot he's going to be able to do with the Yankees. So I could see him playing more of that, barring any injuries, of course. But I think he's going to have another monster year. Stanton is 6 for me. Who's your 7?
7's still Aaron Judge. I think the average is going to come down. I think he's going to be around 265-ish. I do think, though, obviously the Giancarlo effect could help him a bit. They probably going to pitch to him rather than Giancarlo, but I still think there's some regression there with the way that they pitch him and just the sheer fact that I just don't think he's as good as he was last season. I mean, I hate to say it all season, but he was awesome to watch. I mean, every time he's up to bat, you expect him to. You're scared that he's going to hit a home run. I mean, that's just a fact. And maybe it's just because I'm a scared Red Sox fan and it happens a lot to us. But I still think he's going to get his 45 home runs and his 110 RBIs and probably 115 runs. So that's still good for the 7th best outfielder for me.
My number 7 is JD Martinez. Your number 6, pretty much what you said, especially if he stays in a good ballpark to hit him. But I hesitate to say that because he's proven he can do it no matter what ballpark he's in. He had some of the most power in all of baseball. Missed the first month and a half or so of the season. He's just there's no ballpark safe. I'd love him to see him. I know you would too with that green monster in left. He could have a field day with that. He hits for good average, 270 plus to 280 area. I could see 35 plus homers, driving in 100 runs on a full season. Lost like JD Martinez, and he's my number 7. Who is your 8?
Cody Bellinger. We had him at our first base rankings as well. The kid's got legit power. Possibility that he steals a little bit more too. And we're hoping for that. I know it might be a little bit of a slow start for him, a little sophomore slump, but I still think he gets close to that 40 home run plateau. I think he'll drive in more runs, being in the middle of the lineup now for that team. Hopefully, the entire team can stay healthy there, and then hopefully he stays right around that 270 plateau with around a 355 OBP. So the kid's got tremendous potential.
My number 8 is Andrew Benintendi, and I'm not the Red Sox fan on this show. I'm very high on him becoming even better than he was last year. Last year at 271 with 20 homers, 20 steals, 90 RBIs, and 84 runs scored. I could see 100 ribbies, depending on where he hits in the order. Where are they projecting him at?
I think 2.
Okay,
but I can while you talk, I can check roster resource.
I'm still thinking 100 ribbies, 100 runs is doable. I could see 25 to 30 homers, and I think the steals could go up as well. He's a legit 25 to 30 can. I think Benintendi is the real deal. Remember, everyone had him as the rookie of the year last year, number 1 prospect in all of baseball. Still very young, still developing. I think the batting average is going to improve. This is one of those guys that is a 5. I've talked about it before. He's a 5-category player for you in your fantasy leagues. That's why I have him ahead of the Judges and Bellingers. People have ridiculed me for it already. That's fine. I will take the 5 tools there with Benintendi at 8. I know you hope I'm right there because that means he's having a humongous year. Doesn't mean you have to agree with me, but I really do like Benintendi. Who's your 9?
George Springer. You pretty much said everything. I am a little bit worried about that power. I don't know if it's completely sustainable compared to the guys that I have ranked in front of him. But you're absolutely right in that lineup. The guy should be, he should still score 110 runs. I wonder though, like I said, if the power can stay there and whether the average can stay at 283 and maybe it's not more of a 270-ish, although, his K percentage definitely went down from the years before that. So that's something that he did improve. And maybe that did lead to more contact and him getting on base more and him getting a little bit finding those holes to get some of those singles. So I'm not sure if he's a 35 home run guy, but the kid's still tremendous in that lineup, like you said.
My number 9 is Aaron Judge. I moved him down because 284 is not happening. The batting average is not happening at all. 208 strikeouts last year. Until he shows some better plate discipline, I think he's going to have a lot of growing pains still. The power is legit, but even Steamer's only projecting him for 37 homers this year, which you can get that a lot of places in fantasy right now. So I like him. He might still have a tremendous year. I just think 128 ribbies or 114 ribbies, 128 runs. Don't see that happening. Still a good year. Still in my top 10 because of that potential to go big or go home. But like Steamer is a 254 average, 93 runs, 95 RBIs. I can see this projection being a lot closer than last year's numbers, which are still very, very good numbers, but do concern me a bit. Who is your number 10?
I've got Justin Upton at 10. I think a move to a warmer climate in the early part of the season may help him a little bit. He's played his whole career in warm climates. Not that is a huge thing, but it would be a little bit more comfortable for me. I think he figured it out last year. Obviously, he had a great year to get that next contract with the Angels. I think he's in a better lineup than he was because Miggy wasn't the same. JD was hurt most of the time that he was in Detroit. Castellanos didn't really take that next step, and then Kinsler was bad last year, which he's going to be better this year. So I think he's in a better lineup as well. And I hope he gets, to that 14, 15 steals like he did the year before, because this will justify where I have him. I know Steamer has him way down at 248, so that's kind of something to watch. I know the BABIP was a little high at 341, but I still think he can be around 260, 265 with 30-plus homers and 100 RBIs, and hopefully that's the steals stay there as well. Yeah,
I don't mind him at all. He's always a really intriguing guy you can get some value with in your drafts, actually. My number 10 is Cody Bellinger. You said a lot about him. There is going to be some regression. That batting average concerns me. He's about a 250 hitter. It's weird. I look at Cody, and there's times where I go, okay, he's going to get even better because he's young. Like the Benintendi ideas that I was having earlier. And there's times where I see there's a lot of holes in the swing still, a lot of holes. And he's still developing, so similar to Judge, growing pains. And you look at Steamer's projections, they had Judge at 37 homers. They got Bellinger at 36. They differ in the runs, but Bellinger actually has 2 more RBIs than Aaron Judge, and they have about the same batting average. So Steamer almost hasn't projected the same. Bellinger 5 more stolen bases, but or three more. It's really, really close between those two. On Steamers was kind of eye-opening to me when I was looking into these kind of things, that these models that are pretty good at projecting for the most part have them set up this way. So I got Bellinger at 10, but like you said at the beginning, a lot of these guys you can rotate around, and you really can't miss. Your outfield's deep as always, and you can get a lot of value later in the draft. Where do you have Benintendi? I'm just curious.
I have him right outside there. I got him at 11. I do like Benintendi a lot. I think, the one question is the power. I mean, it really is. I think he'll get to 20 to 25 stolen bases. I watch him on a daily basis, so it is there. But hopefully his second full season in baseball, he can kind of pace himself a little bit, because he did get tired right in the middle of the season. And was kind of inconsistent. So that's the only thing I'm really worried about. But hopefully Cora helps him out a little bit there, and he's not playing for a robot in John Farrell anymore.
Nice. But yeah, it's a really deep position. A lot of I got Yelich and Ozuna in new places. Nelly Cruz always pumps up power. You got Tommy Pham, who's kind of an interesting to see what he does this year. So lots to like. Matt Olson, even tons of stuff to look at there.
Buxton, baby. Buxton. Where does he go?
I got him at 17, but I don't even know if I can do it. Like, I love Buxton. I've been on Buxton for years now. But, man, when you got guys around him that can produce, it's that you know what you're going to get. I mean, it's tough.
Yeah, I can't draft him that high. I completely agree.
It's real tricky, but it'll be interesting with spring training coming out. You're going to see a lot of projections changing and news coming out, altering people's opinions. Always gets fun to wade through the real talk and the fake talk.
For sure.
But that'll wrap us up on episode 51, Mo. Next week is 52, officially a year. Math, again, not my strong suit. But hopefully we'll get some big-time moves. Like you said earlier, with Yu Darvish going down, it might open the floodgates for at least the pitching side of things. And then if, your Red Sox stop being so damn cheap, JD can come to town and start things off.
Man, I hope it happens. I really do. I really want to get the previews started and start digging into that. I mean, I should already start digging in, but it's tough to do when there's so many free agents out there that could affect what you think of each team. I mean, I know we're not talking about the Bryce Harpers and whatnot, but I mean, some of these starters could help a team because they're going to be better than Giovanni Gallardo, cough, cough, Milwaukee. These guys are going to be better than him. Okay.
Yeah, no, that's true. It's hard to get the real views on preseason projections and everything with half the league. They started a goddamn spring training site, for crying out loud. There's that many of them. So It's tough.
Right. Yeah.
But all right, everybody, Around the Bases with Bubba and Mo, episode 51 of the books. Check it out on Twitter at Around Bases Pod. Mo is at Boston_Mo. I am at BDintric, and the podcast. Find it on all your favorite places: SoundCloud, Spreaker, Stitcher, iTunes. And until next week, catch you guys later.
See you.